Good morning. Try it again. Good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution, episode 362. It's been very sporadic on my live videos. I apologize. I've had a lot going on, um, good and bad. So I actually had not planned on going live this morning, but I just kind of last second. That's why I'm later than what my normal time slot would be at 6:45. I just wanted to provide an update because there is a lot going on, some hobby related. Um, but I've had some good things happen. I've had some bad things happen, and I've had some things that have not yet happened that may be good or bad. I can't really divulge that, but I'll save that for a future episode. I did want to go on just to um, kind of give a tribute to my friend Robin who passed away. Zach, what's up? Good morning, buddy. Um, my friend Robin had been battling cancer, and she lost that battle over the weekend. And she was actually she was a family friend. She was my parents. Her and her husband. We called it his nickname's Boo. Everybody in a small town has a nickname. So his name's Bill. Boo and Robin. They live just up the street. My hometown is Mayberry, and it's funny because that's exactly what Robin would call Anawan, where I grew up. Thanks, Zach. Um, Called it May, like that was, she never referred to it by Anawan. It was Mayberry. And it really was. Growing up in a small town, I never truly appreciated the greatness of growing up in kind of a self-sustaining small community. We had, a post office. We had our own bank. We had an IGA grocery store. We had bars, restaurants. When I was a kid, there was a bowling alley. We had a video store that they kind of came on late in the game. They came on during the transition of VHS to DVD, and that didn't go so well. So we had a flower shop. We just had things that small communities, we had, if you wanted like really good deals on groceries, you would have to go out of town. You would have to drive 10 miles. We didn't have, we you had to go to a bigger city 10 miles, 20 miles down the road to get, school clothes, stuff like that. But for the most part, your day-to-day goods and services could all be found in our small town that Robin nicknamed Mayberry. Little pink houses, absolutely. Um, and I worked at that, and I take for granted my childhood and my growing up, because I just thought every kid grew up and transitioned from paperboy to bagger at the grocery store, and then went off to college and would come home, and everybody knows your name because it's Mayberry, and because you were their paper boy as a 12-year-old, and then when you were 16 you bagged their groceries. So you were everybody knew your name because you worked for them for half of your life as a kid. But when I grew up and went off to college and met people from larger cities, uh I found out that wasn't really the case. Every town wasn't like Mayberry. Not every young kid grew up as a paper boy and transitioned into IGA bagger and cashier. So I kind of treasure those memories now because it really was like, even though I grew up in the 90s, like it was like stepping back in time, watching Leave It to Beaver. Like it really was growing up in a small town, like growing up in the Andy Griffith Show in Mayberry, North Carolina. Um, so and it's like that today. When I go, I was last home a few months ago for our local town celebration, and it's almost like time doesn't move in a small town. It's like I can go to the bar and they just look 20 years older, 10 years older. But it's the same cast. It's unique, I think. So at IGA, I actually worked with with Robin. And I knew Robin and Boo from when I was young. They were my neighbors, so they and we had a Mayberry block. So and what's sad is my dad has passed away. My another friend of theirs who actually I went to school with their daughter. Um, their mom passed away from cancer. It's been almost 15 years now. And I just remember like growing up, they would have pool parties. It's like your parents are having pool parties. Um, and we just have and it's still like to this day my best friend Scott, his parents, he grew up across the street. His parents still live on the block. And there's just several, couples and neighbors that they do. Robin would organize a supper club, which was once a month on a Saturday night. They would pick a place and they would go. There would be sometimes it was only 8, sometimes it was up to 20. And they would just go to various we didn't really have supper clubs in Illinois, but they would go to restaurants throughout the, probably a 30 to 50 mile radius of our hometown. And I was able to, I would come home and I went on a couple of those trips. It was fun because, as you grow up, your parents' friends kind of become your friends. And that's exactly what Boo and Robin became. They were neighbors from, the time I can remember. They lived just up the street, a few doors down. When I started working at the grocery store at the IGA, Robin worked there. And we worked together at the grocery store for however long I worked there, 4 years, 3 years through high school and like 1 or 2 years into college. So I think my lasting memory will be going home in the summer, and I had to drive by Boo and Robin's house to get to my parents' house. And it was just a few doors down. It was on the highway. And they had a party garage. They would have, some of the best times we had were when we had home football games. My high school co-ops now. But when we had home football games, they would have the after party in the party garage. And whenever the door was up, that meant Boo and Robin, or Boo were outside in the garage, probably had the Cubs game on. Die-hard Cubs fans. And some of my favorite times were, and I'm glad I was able to last year, even with COVID. I made it down, and the door was open, and I was able to, and she was in okay health at that time, so she came out, joined us last summer, watch a Cubs game, have a couple beers in the party garage. So that was kind of, whenever I came home, I would drive by. If the door was open, I wouldn't even go home. My mom knew I was coming home. And if an hour, like, okay, I'll be home at 3. And if it's 4 o'clock and I'm not home, she would either just walk up, because she knew I was probably in Boo and Robin's garage. Or she'd text me, "Hey, are you almost home?" "Yep, come on up. I'm at Boo and Robin's." So that was like my first stop when I would go home. Herman worked for an IGA store, made it to assistant manager before you left. That's awesome. And the IGA, I love the IGA because we had baseball cards, and like as a kid, I would go up there and spend my quarters on packs of baseball cards. Thanks, Dan, for that. So they were diehard Cubs fans. And huge Ryan Sandberg fans. So Robin's birthday is in January, and in 2018 at the Cubs convention, I just happened to. I'm terrible with birthdays. If Facebook didn't exist, I would have no idea whose birthdays it was. In fact, sometimes I hope my wife doesn't hear this. Sometimes I confuse my wife's birthday, because there's a good reason for it, though. My wife's birthday is October 13th, but our first date was October 15th. So it's always like, okay, when did we meet? October 15th or 13th? Her birthday is the 15th of the so yeah, I'm not good with birthdays. So the Cubs convention 2018, it was Robin's birthday, and it didn't even really occur to me until I'm at the fundraiser, Carrie Wood's fundraiser at Harry Carey's. All of a sudden it dawned on me, like, I always would take selfies with players, get a couple autographs, but I wanted to do something unique. And Ryan Sandberg was a guest bartender. And I'm like, what can I do? It's too loud. I don't know if I can get Rhino to wish Robin happy birthday on video. What else could I do? So I grabbed a napkin, and they were black. So, and I had like some, actually, I think my buddy Arnie had some Sharpies with him, and he had a silver Sharpie, and they had black napkins. And I'm like, hey, let me see your silver Sharpie. So I wrote on black napkin and silver Sharpie, happy birthday, Robin. And I wanted to have Rhino hold it up, take a picture so I could send it to her. And then I made a custom baseball card. I don't know if you can see it. This is Rhino holding up a napkin that says happy birthday, Robin, 2018. And then I didn't even, like, all of this was happening at the same, like, I had this idea, and it was all like within seconds, like, what, boom, 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 boom. And then it didn't dawn on me until like later. And so I posted it on Facebook, put it, hey, Robin, somebody has a happy birthday wish for you. And then it's like, why didn't, and it's like, oh, I'll give this napkin to Robin. And it's like a birthday, as the picture. It's cool. I have him sign it. And to this day, like, I still, 3 years, almost 4 years later, it's like, oh, why didn't I have him sign that stupid napkin? So, another funny story about this particular napkin. So I at least I had the foresight to keep it, because I almost just left it on the bar. But I'm like, I think she'd probably want that, because, and they're into, like, the Party Garage has a lot of cool stuff. Like, Boo's got a lot of like 80s Cub stuff, like 84 stuff. So it's really cool. So I'm like, they'd probably want the napkin. So I kept the napkin. Like a week later, we have cleaners come every couple weeks, and I had the napkin like on my shelf. And they're not supposed to, the cleaners aren't supposed to like throw anything away that's like on a table or on a shelf, even if it looks too garbage, but you never know. So I saw the napkin on my shelf, like, as I was prepping for the cleaners. So I put it underneath something on the shelf. Like a week or two goes by. I think I was preparing to go home, and I was going to take the napkin. I can't find it. I think it was like a day. It wasn't a week. It was a couple days later, after the cleaners came. And I remember having this napkin on the bottom shelf in my rec room, and it's not there. So I'm looking around. I went into the garbage bin, and I dug through the trash looking for this napkin that Ryan Sandberg held up for my friend Robin, who passed away this weekend. It wasn't in there. All of a sudden, after I dig through the trash, I realized I put it underneath things, so they, so it wouldn't be like, oh, this is a napkin. So I came down to the basement. I washed my hands first, came down to the basement, and lifted up. There it was. So I took it to Boo and Robin's, and they printed out a picture, because I had posted the picture on Facebook, and then they posted the picture, or printed a picture, and they've got a display case, and the happy birthday, Robin. So gave that to them. So Robin passed away this weekend. So I'm bummed about that. My wife's grandma is in not good health condition. She's, I think, 90, almost 95. I think she turns 95 later this year. She was in the hospital for about a week last week. Actually over a week. She was transferred to a different, she lived in, it wasn't assisted living, but it was, in a elderly care, where she like could do her own thing. But they did have activities and all that. It wasn't a nursing home, wasn't assisted living. It was whatever, residential, elderly residential living. I don't know what they call it. But anyway, she needs, she needs care. So she's at a different facility. So she was moved yesterday or Monday, Labor Day, Monday. Independent living. Thank you, Zach. Zach, I should have known. I should have just said, Zach, give me the name for that. I knew you would know. So yeah, so she's in assisted living now. And she's in pretty ill health. So yeah, so it's been difficult. It's been tough. We had the dog situation last week. And that worked out. So the foster family is going to adopt Pierre. So that worked out. But with loss and grandma in poor health, it's been tough. Trying to work through it. I have been really, so I haven't really been posting much on Twitter. So that's kind of why. Sometimes sometimes when my head's spinning like this, with various things, excuse me, with various things going on, it's hard for me to, kind of be social, I guess is kind of the term. So that's kind of why I haven't been posting much on Twitter. I have been, my eBay goals, and I can talk more on the eBay stuff this week. I'll go live again, at some point this week. So I have been ramping that up. So that's kind of what I've been focused on. So that's, and I haven't been going live, or on Twitter. I just kind of get not antisocial, but it's almost kind of like you just want to step away, and it's not burnout. It's not, I'm not burned out from the hobby. In fact, I'm probably spending more time in the hobby than usual. So it's kind of, it's not burnout at all. It's just kind of, it's just a pause from being social. But I do have the Club 400 event coming up. And I didn't do much this week. And I think another thing is when home, and I'm not going out doing things, I think that it almost kind of just the way my mind works. It's almost like, it's almost like I'm in hiding, which sounds silly. I don't know how to really put it into words, but, about the only social thing I did was go to the post office, or get some groceries on Saturday. So, it was a 3-day weekend, which was needed just to really get the eBay listings going. I listed about 800 items Labor Day weekend. So I've got another about 200 that I'm working on, some football stuff that I want to get released into the eBay store by kickoff. I think, does the NFL kick off Thursday? I think it's Thursday. But I want to get those listed by the weekend. So yeah, so I did a lot within the hobby. I just didn't post a lot or do many videos over the last week. So that's kind of what's going on. Nothing too terrible, I guess. Bad stuff, but we'll power through. There was something else on my mind, and now I can't remember what it was, but I do need to wrap this up. It's almost 7:15. So there's some other stuff going on that I may touch on next week. I should have a better feel for things next week, and this isn't, that sounds very very, what's the word I'm looking for? Cynical, I guess, but it's not a bad thing. It's just kind of, and the funny thing is, my wife and I were talking last night. She has a big milestone birthday coming up. I won't reveal which milestone that is. And she mentioned, it doesn't bother me. It's next month. And she goes, it doesn't really bother me. And I said, and I'm a year behind, so I'll hit that milestone birthday next June. And, I'm like, you know, the previous milestone birthday, I don't want to give away the age here. The previous milestone birthday didn't bother me, but the age leading up to it did. And I made some significant life changes the year before that milestone birthday. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me with some of the conversations we were having. It's like, is this like an every decade thing? So that's just a little drop into what's going on. So I'll leave it at that. Dan, I'll go back to your last. My neighbors across the alley would have their garage door open if they were in there doing something. I'd always walk in there and be there for hours. That's what the great thing about small town living is. And I kind of miss it, but I kind of don't, because I do like to be independent. And it would bother me when I had roommates, like in college. I hated it when their friends came over, or sometimes I didn't like people dropping in. And that's what you do in a small town. Like you just, you don't call or text ahead of time. You just, hey, the garage door is open. And that's kind of what it is with my mom. When her garage door is open, people come over. But if the garage door is shut, it's like, leave me, it's like, leave me alone. Even though you might not be in that mindset. You might want to welcome people, but you forgot to open the garage door. So that's kind of the cool thing about small town living. Garage door means, hey, come on over. I'm social today. Garage door closed. Leave me alone. I want to watch TV and be alone today. I do kind of miss, and I'll hop on. So my dad bought a scooter when he was, his knees were bad. His back was going out. He was a very blue collar, mechanical, like, he worked hard, like physically hard. These hands, no physical labor here. So he, his knees were going out, his back was hurting. So he bought a scooter. So instead of, like, if he wanted to walk uptown to get the mail or get some groceries or whatever, he'd hop on the scooter so he didn't have to walk, because a few blocks for him was difficult on bad knees. So he bought a scooter. So when I'd come home, it's like, I'm gonna get the scooter out, and I just cruise around, and whoever had their garage door open, I'd stop in. And sometimes it would be my brother, sometimes it would be my parents' friends, Boo and Robin. It just, various people would be out, and sometimes I'd be gone all day because I was just hopping from neighbor to neighbor and house to house in my hometown. So that's what's cool about living in a small town. It's great to visit, and I enjoy doing that in a limited basis. I don't know if I definitely wouldn't want to live in a small town. I said, when I lived in Macomb, which is about 20,000 with the college students, it's more like 10,000 without. It's a small city without. And I'm like, I never want to live in a smaller city than 20,000. And now I'm in Madison. And Madison is the perfect size for me, because you get everything you need. I'm close enough to Chicago where it's just a couple hours down the interstate. Everything that, I don't need to drive, 30 miles to go to the mall or Best Buy or whatever I may need. Everything is within Madison. It's not a huge city. It's not concrete. It's actually very green up here. So it's not a concrete jungle. I could never live in Chicago, city of. So love it here. So that's what I had for today. I just wanted to come on, give you an update. Zach, thank you for the text this morning. So everything is good. Everything is good. I'm actually more hobby involved than I probably have been recently. But just some outside things going on that have kind of made me a little less than usual social. So we'll get through it. I think this weekend's going to be a very social weekend. We've got Club 400 with Ryan Dempster and Ray Burris on Friday night. And actually, my friend Scott that I mentioned previously, who we were best friends growing up across the street from each other. He lives 3 blocks away from Club 400. He's actually coming for the first time. Usually, he's just he's my hotel and taxi. I crash at his house, and he's my designated driver to and from Club 400. So this weekend, he's actually going to come for the first time, despite living 3 blocks away. So that's awesome. And then I'll come back. My wife's office is having a end of summer party on Saturday. So it'll be a very social weekend. And I'll snap out of the antisocialness. Dan, yes, I did look. I had to take it off and look very cool. I love it. I may have to look into 1 hour tees to, I think that's where you made that hoodie. I'm going to have to check them out and might do something. And I noticed there's multicolor. I actually have a design that Brian made. He is 40-year-old versions on Twitter. But I haven't been able to find a print, like an online, like, Vistaprint and some of the major ones. They all shot me back. Like they accepted, like one of the companies automatically declined it because there were like 5 or 6. The second one took my money, and I printed like a bunch. They had a lot of my money, and it was like held hostage for a month. They held my money for a month, and I think it was actually PayPal holding it. But it was a nightmare. I like had to call them twice, and I'm like, hey, because I wanted to use that money to go with another company that could do the 5, and it just annoyed me so much. I just completely dropped the idea because I wanted to have these shirts and koozies printed by the National, and the koozies, I couldn't find multi koozies, and I wanted a specific koozie, and I could, but they were like, and I wasn't going to pay that. So I think I'm just going to have to, if I want a koozie, I'm going to have to do the one color. But I did notice your hoodie is multicolor. So I'm going to look into 1 hour tees so they can do the print that the image that Brian made, because it's really cool. It is really cool. And he over to the Schaumburg show when I was set up there, and kind of, gave me a he orally told me the ideas behind the design, and like what was going through his mind, like inside the artist's mind. Like, it's pretty cool. Like that's kind of what's turned me on to art. I'm like talking way. I've really got to get on the road, but I just want to give this thought out real quick, that it's really cool when artists like, and I love like not behind, what's up Diego, not behind the music, but when during a concert, and usually it's acoustic concerts, where like the lead singer they'll do a song and then they'll kind of explain, and I love the stories behind the music, and same with art. And I love, when Brian was telling me, okay, this is what I was envisioning when I made this, and so this represents this, and then I put in this. And so just like hearing what was going through his mind as he designed this, really cool. So I'm going to look into 1 hour tees. So Dan, thank you so much for the hoodie. It's awesome. I was wearing it all day on Saturday, Sunday. And it's soft. It's very comfortable. The size is perfect. So I already know what size I need when I order from them. So it's like, it's the perfect hoodie, because hoodies, I'm very particular about my hoodies. And that hoodie, Dan, is like perfect for what I like in a hoodie. So thank you so much. And the back is really cool with the Twitter. So that's what I had for today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm not sure if I'm going to go live tomorrow. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Thursday already. I'll definitely go live one of the next 2 days. I'll not be live Saturday because I'll be on the road. So Thursday or Friday, um, I will be live. So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it, and have a great Wednesday.